Welcome to the Startup Grind.
My name is Nautic. I'm from RSA Web. The reason I'm here is because we're sponsoring the Wi-Fi internet to the conference. We came here expecting a lot of business ideas that will make more efficiency and make business easier in South Africa with all the technology that the guys have presented here with the speakers, advices on startups.
Hi, my name's Matthew Griffith. This is T-Nation. I've been invited here by G of Startup Grind to come showcase my products, as well as hopefully sell some products as well to the people here. I'm expecting it to be a really good night, a lot of networking people. So what we have here is what I like to call craft loose leaf tea. It's a modernization of traditional loose leaf tea. It's very unique. All the blends themselves have it's blended tea, should I say, of different varieties. Blends of a whole bunch of unique ingredients, from coffee beans to mango pieces to chili to chocolates. And we're hoping to get South Africa into experiencing a whole new outlook on tea as a whole.
So we're a local Cape Town-based maker community, and we were asked to bring along some of the things that we've made so that people could get some ideas. We don't sell things, we make them with microcomputers, Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, and LEDs and wire and stuff. We make them, we build them ourselves, and we encourage people to come along and make things with us. This is something I made. It's got a little computer inside this disused snuff box with a little accelerometer and a battery, and it can sense movement as you move it and direction as you turn it around, and generally that's what it does. This is a clock where you can tell the time based on the shadow cast by the rings of LEDs around the outside. There's a red LED ring, a green LED ring, and a blue LED ring, and the shadows that they cast. You read the time the same way that you would with a sundial.
Now, today we're going to be chatting to James Fisher, and James he won the award for Entrepreneur of the World for Ernst & Young. Entrepreneur of the World, guys. Ernst & Young. He'll correct me and say it's just for the South African and African regions. But he's really done amazing stuff. He's won numerous awards. His company, Nautic, has won some great awards. Guys, can you please stand? Give a massive round of applause. Come on, there we go. For none other than James Fisher. Woo! Thank you so much, James. Here's a seat for you. I'll sit this side. There we go. Okay,
Am I switched on?
You're switched on. You're a switched on guy. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time out to chat to us. So, most startup grinds, the way we start is we'll be, hey, where were you born? Simple as that.
Okay. Well, can I thank you for an enormous welcome. Very unexpected, and perhaps I'd just like to say when I got this invitation to come and speak for a fireside chat, I was thinking of someone's lounge at home. But this is exciting. So I was born in Durban, but have lived most of my life in Cape Town.
Okay. So a small town out in the other side of the world. Is that why you're doing boats at the moment? Because of the love for the sea and the ocean?
I have no idea how I get involved in the things I do, and it's sort of one gets very excited and passionate about things, and one thing leads to another. I do love boats. I love the sea, but you tend to sort of move along on a path in life and succeed at things that you're passionate about. And I think it happened to be boats, but it could have been a lot of other things.
Okay. And where did you study?
I studied briefly at Stellenbosch University. I did my.
Were your parents here, or
my parents were in Johannesburg at the time.
Okay.
I went to Stellenbosch University. In those days, we had to do 2 years national service, which I did in the Navy, and then went to Stellenbosch University after that. And it was during my first semester there that I realized that I had other things that were more interesting, and headed off to the States with my SnakeBoard.
The SnakeBoard, okay. So James invented, or co-invented, with 2 other guys, the SnakeBoard. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these boards. It's got like movable panels, and you can literally snake your way on a skateboard around the park. I see there's been quite a few different variations of that coming out lately. So you invented this in around about 1998, is that right?
No, 91.
91. And, 98 when you got listed. And in 91, studied, went off, and decided to drop your studies because you were doing so well with the SnakeBoard.
Yeah, not quite as simple as that. I think it's okay. It's a long story, so I'm going to just, the highlights are that I've always been passionate about coming up with new ideas. I love innovation and ideas, and as a youngster, I would spend a lot of time naively trying to think of new inventions, and this wasn't the only one. So. But this one was fun, and it's in that sort of age, you don't go and invent a computer or anything too complicated, certainly in those days. So it's toys or sporting equipment, and this just became a lot of fun, and we sort of decided we really think we can sell this. So when I say I went to America, it was really after we had developed this as a product, and managed to convince somebody to put a little bit of seed capital in. And it was enough money to send me overseas to cruise down California and try and get some market feedback on how great this product was potentially going to be. That was enough for me, and I left to go and do this. Didn't last long in America.
You mean the feedback was so positive? You're like, this is going to be a sure thing.
Not really, no. In fact, I was pretty disappointed, to be honest. I spent, there were 2 forays to America. There was the first one, which is the one the one we talk about now, was market research. People had put some, investors had put some seed money in, and they wanted a quick answer. They wanted to know, is this thing going to work? And if so, where can we make lots of them and make lots of money? I don't blame them for thinking like that, but it wasn't quite like that for our product.
Okay.
One of the first lessons I learned is that sometimes you think you have an obvious solution as a product for a big corporate. So you think, well, this has got to be the answer for them. And you realize that big corporates are so locked up in sustainable innovation that it's the next blade, it's a 4th razor blade, or it's something that's going to carry on.
Incremental
It's
innovation.
incremental. This disruptive innovation is not necessarily for corporates, and they get a bit of a fright because it doesn't fit into their plan, their 5-year plan. And even in the skateboard industry, which although
That's
they're
quite
small
interesting.
companies, they are big companies in America. I mean, they're all doing tens of $millions of turnover, and they really were very locked in where they were going next year and the year after. So I went and showed them this product, and to be fair, they liked it, but they also saw it as a bit of a threat. So I also learned that there's a strong lifestyle attachment to skateboarding, a bit like surfing and boogie boarding. You try and go, and when they start launching boogie boards, nobody wanted to know about them. Same with rollerblades. I mean, I met the guy who invented the rollerblade, and he told me the stories of how he'd sit there at the beach with 20 pairs of these things, and people would walk past it like this, not wanting to have anything to do with it. So these are the kind of challenges you have, and I came back to South Africa I was pretty dejected, but I guess with enough enthusiasm that I thought, well, I can still do this, because maybe it's something slightly different to skateboarding, but I think there's enough people that can get excited about this. So that's...
Okay, can you take me through the actual design process? So you had an idea in your mind. How did you realize that idea? Did you go and, I know you used parts of a table tennis table that you cut off to create the first boards and pieces of pipe. Do you just find stuff lying around and say, hey guys, let's just make a thing and see if it works? Or what was the process?
Pretty much that. It's I dive into my dad's garage and leave all his tools lying all over the place every day, and but they were very crude, and we didn't really understand the engineering dynamics behind it. So these prototypes would break every day, literally, and we'd build, but we'd learn. And we had no money, and it was playing around with plumbing pipes and table tennis tables. But I was riding this board down the driveway one day, and we had a German next door neighbor who came across and saw this, and he said, "Wow, this is a fantastic product." And I said, "Well, yes, it is. I know it is." And I went to America, and they liked it, but this is who I am. So he said, "Well, why don't you patent it?" And so I said, "What's a patent?" And so he ran inside and brought down details of this attorney down the road, and that was kind of a whole other path we went on, and we ended up with 26 patents.
Wow. For a SnakeBoard,
well, you have claims, and then you have patents in different countries, and it's a path that is good and bad, and it's another whole story. But I think what it did is it did lock up. We had a very strong principle around this a strong patent, and on the back of that, we were able to raise more funding. My two co-inventors were medical students, so I did all the work. And now that I'd ditched university and gone to America, I basically came back, and this is what I was doing. So yeah, I guess with a little bit of money, we then started to follow more of a practiced design route, which is a lot slower then than it is today. I mean, with CATIA and SolidWorks and everything else that's available today, it's certainly the whole cycle to market is much quicker. But I think that at least we had the money at that point to then go down a more sophisticated route.
How did you raise that money? Because I mean, back then there wasn't like investors and VCs and these kind of things.
It was a lot of, to be honest, a lot of knocking on doors and jumping on the board in front of these wealthy people and saying, "We need 40 grand to register a patent, and here's a business plan." And if I think about it, I'm actually amazed that we raised the money. But actually, if I think about how I started the business I'm in now, I'm amazed we actually started this business, because it all comes down to your individual enthusiasm and passion to drive whatever it is you're doing. Yes, of course, all that other stuff's important, but a lot of it is up to you as an individual.
And once you started getting the traction, you got some seed funding, you did that first trip to Europe, America, you came back, you didn't give up on the dream, you carried on. Did you find the second time around getting funding and going back again that there was more traction, that you knew better how to pitch it, or what was that success?
There was no epiphany at any one point that we've made it. We've got an order for 1 million boards. It was actually building a business, and so I set up a factory in Johannesburg at the time, and I was living in America, really starting a small business. We started selling boards to the sports shops and driving a van up and down California PCH highway, and it was hard. It was because it's a different culture. And
no, the manufacturing was in South Africa, and you were selling it in America.
We were selling it in America.
Was it cheaper to ship it over, or?
In those days, it was still good to do that. We did eventually move the facility to jumping ahead in the story, because we grew the business in America. We set up distributors around the world. We reached a critical mass. We were selling hundreds of thousands of these boards every year. We started a sport. We had world championships every year, and we got to the point where they needed to scale the thing up. We were just young and we were enjoying life. I mean, those are the days of fax machines and no email. And I remember living in Cape Town in digs here, and I'd have a fax machine next to my bed. The factory was in Taiwan, and I would know that when the fax machine went off, it was an order that was coming through, and it would drop onto the floor, and I'd look in the morning with all these rolled up pieces of paper, and I would open them up and take my calculator, and I'd say, well, 1,000 times we made $23 profit on each board, and I would send the order to China, and they would make it, and it was a fantastic business. But it actually didn't, I mean, it was too good for such a focused period of time that we realized it had to change. The distributors were calling for new product designs, and it was becoming a business. So we went out to raise capital, and that was when we looked at NASDAQ and spent quite a lot of time trying to raise money in New York. Realized it was a bit more pricey than London at the time, so we ended up in London.
And South Africa market, you couldn't list it in South Africa, was because the IP and everything was overseas?
We had based everything offshore by then. It was the factory was
the
in
lawyers
Taiwan.
advised you where to go to do there, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, in those days, it was pre-Mandela's release. There was a lot of everyone was thinking about just getting out of South Africa, and it was sort of the thing to do. And in retrospect, I mean, obviously, that was our market as well. So I don't regret what we did. And but afterwards, I couldn't wait to get back. I think it was a great experience, and then the listing was the whole story. But it was what the product needed. It needed to get to another level, and we needed to go and license other companies to make it to grow the category. So that's pretty much what happened.
And this thing, you said you had some regrets about actually that initial part, initial funding and initial listing. Looking back, what would you do differently?
I may not have listed the company. I think that, bear in mind I was young, so talking in your 20s and you're on the front page of the Financial Times newspaper and your share price will be worth £22 million and you've got Reuters have voted, well, it didn't end up like that, but Reuters voted us the best board that they'd seen compiled in years. And so I just thought, wow, this is it, you know, we've made it. And so it was, I think, the first or second board meeting I was voted off the board. I had 51% of the company as well, so I still technically controlled the shareholders' vote. And
they voted you all?
Yes, because they thought that the experience wasn't needed, or that they were going to set up a separate little management board and I was to carry on with product development and all that sort of stuff. But I think what they missed is that I had the relationships. I had the relationships with all the distributors. I understood that product. I had a relationship with the guy making the boards in a factory in Taiwan. We had a vibe, and it was we understood each other. And they were suddenly starting getting emails, maybe just starting emails or faxes from them saying, you know, this is the new board of directors, we want you to cut your price by 5%. And so we started to lose the personality of the business, and that's when it was a very bad time for me. I mean, I slowly watched the share price just tank, and I threatened to call an EGM, but the market makers would come and say, no, you can't do that. If you do that, the share price is going to crash. And I said, well, how much worse can it get? And they said, no, we'll help you sort it out. And they didn't. And eventually I did call an EGM, or I threatened to call an EGM, and by negotiation we managed to get rid of most of the board. We managed to get back in, and we managed to rescue it. And we did a reverse acquisition of another toy company. And so suddenly we had new management in there, and the whole thing gained new momentum.
Massive stuff. Did the toy company do any justice?
Well, I mean, I can go back and say, well, there's a lot of things we could have done differently. I think at the time it was the right call. One mistake we did, which is actually a big lesson, and that is when you have a patented product, you think that you own a category, and therefore you don't want to let anyone else play it. But what we found is that we would take our product and we'd put it on the shelf, and we'd be one product, or maybe we had 3 in our range. But customers would walk in there and they would see 1 or 2 boards, and they'd see 50 skateboards and 25 different rollerblades, and they wouldn't accept that our product was as good as the others because we were only one company making it. So I think one of the mistakes I did make is not go and license out from day one. I should have probably gone and licensed 5 or 6 different companies from day one to make this product, which is what we ended up doing with the toy company. We had lots of toy variations, and if you look on the internet now, there's 20 different types of street boards out there. So we maybe missed a trick there, but it was a lot of fantastic school fees and lessons, and a great experience at that age to go through.
Okay, so how and why did you come back to that?
I was burnt out. I think the listing took it out of me, and then rescuing everything and bringing the new team together. And
were you married at the time?
No, not at that point. I was married 2 years later, but I was just burnt out. I literally came back to Cape Town, built a house, and did nothing for 2 years.
That's nice.
I played a lot of golf.
Pounds and that's a bit.
I played a lot of golf and realized that I was never going to be a professional golfer, and actually I was bored to death. So so that was the sort of the end of a period for me with SnakeBoard. I don't look back. I think that the amount of time I spent in an aeroplane with a board under my arm, you know, shoving it into overhead cabin and whatever around the world, it's just enough. And I just wanted to get back and sink my teeth into something else.
Can you do a SnakeBoard demo for us?
It's actually a funny story because we won the SABS Chairman's Design Award of the Year, and I was right at the back of the hall drinking wine, not thinking we'd have a chance in this winning this thing. And anyway, we won it, and I think I'd had one or too many glasses of wine. They said, "Now James and the client can do a demo on the stage." And anyway, it's a lesson.
You're not SnakeBoard and drink. Okay. SnakeBoard's cars boast three very different uses. Yet, do you get bored easily that you're doing these three different industries?
You would think so, but I mean, I'm very interested in innovation. I think that's so. Whilst these are three businesses that I've been involved in, I'm actually involved in a lot of other things as well. There's a lot of other projects that I'm constantly involved in. I enjoy the variation. I enjoy the challenge. There's a complexity to business that is it's not as a puzzle. You've got to have all the pieces in the right place, and I find that incredibly stimulating. So whether it doesn't really matter what it is, you know, I've got a guest house in as you know from the priors, but people say to me, "Why on earth do you want to go into that?" But it's actually been a lot of fun. It's the same formula, the same challenge, just putting the pieces in a different way. And I'll probably be carrying on doing that for a long time.
Cool. And when he came back, he bought after 2 years, built a house, got some money to burn, not going to be a golf professional. You started building cars. Tell us this.
Well, the summary of it is that I got bored and I placed an advert in the classified for anyone that had a great idea or a new invention and wanted some funding to send their applications or their proposals through to me, and I put an address in it.
The guys reading classified.
Well, now there's probably Gumtree or something. But so I got these piles of stuff coming through, and it was just impossible to keep track of everything. But there was one thing that caught my eye. It was a guy that lived locally in Takai, and he had an idea to build fiberglass body panels for the kid car sports industry in the UK. So now I was to put 80,000 rand in the company, and I would see all this money start coming out. It didn't quite work out like that, and I ended up putting a lot more money in. I ended up buying him out and negotiating with our partners in the UK to build a whole car in Cape Town. And that company did really well, actually. I mean, I know I'll get onto the tremendous failure with it, but up until that point, it was doing really well. And we had 300 people working for us, so in 3 different locations. It was actually also my entrance into the marine and the boat business, because through that holding company, we bought a company called Prestige in Flatbush. And because they're actually similar construction process, you've got a fiberglass hull and fiberglass on the cars, and it's also a lot of assembly. So, and the company was doing well. One of the challenge and the failure that I had in that was that we were 100% export oriented, 100% local content. And I don't know if everyone remembers, but in the early 2000s, the rand went from 13 down to about 5 in literally 8-9 months. And no company in our situation really could have dealt with that. I mean, your revenue more than halves, costs keep going up, and we also had limited customers. We were going all into the US at that time, and so I had to close down, and we kept
It's a very niche industry. Very small market.
It is. It's very specialised, and it's the company subsequently bought twice, and the last person who bought it came to me for advice, and I said, just don't touch it with a barge pole. But people get involved in those businesses for passion, and they just love cars, and they just want to go and do it. So it's a great car. The great cars we built. I met Carol Shelby through this, and we had a great relationship. And we were the only other company in the world to be authorized to build chassis numbers, continuation chassis numbers from Shelby. So, and it could have been a lot more than it ended up, obviously. But I was starting to head down more the mid-engine Lotus type styling, and I wanted to sort of start creating a small car company that could sell higher volumes, but still limited volumes into the European market. But I'm pleased that didn't.
So with the rand, with that rand exchange rate change, you decided, okay, we can't continue, let's call it a day.
Yeah, I think it's one of the risks that we face in this country is this rand. I think it's one of the major stumbling blocks.
How does it affect you today with the company?
Well, we're obviously, I mean, from my history, I'm paranoid about it, and we watch it every day. I mean, at the moment, it's obviously benefiting us from the export, but the products we're making now are a lot more hedged, so we do have a lot of imported components as well. All our engines and drivetrains and specialist machinery comes from Europe. But it's something that as a South African company, you've just got to constantly manage on a daily basis, and you know, whether you're exporting or importing doesn't make any difference.
Now, you started Nautic in 2008. That's as the recession happened. Why did you decide to start a company again?
Because the tail end of the car business, which left me with Prestige inflatables, was doing so badly, and it was 100% in the recreational market, that I realized that the only viable market in that industry was in the commercial side of it, so the oil and gas and the naval sector. And that was the idea. I mean, again, a very naive, enthusiastic idea, which has helped me in the past. And yeah, so that's how I got into what we're doing now.
Okay, tell me the story.
So the story is that I went to get an order, which again, thinking about it, was crazy. I headed off to Nigeria, did various trips off to Nigeria and Ghana to try to get an order. I got a very small order for a patrol boat in Angola. I then
did you know people in the industry that you knew how to report, or were you just phoning around?
There were a few leads you get through the industry that you follow, but it's about going to country, and I think in getting yourself in the network and meeting the players there, and being able to support them with quick turnaround and promise more than you can deliver most of the time. So the small boat, and then I got an order for a big 30-meter vessel, came back and wanted to subcontract the vessel to a local builder. And the local builder said to me, no, you can't build these vessels in South Africa. This is for the UK, maybe the States, possibly Asia.
And I mean, they know the industry.
And they knew the industry and whatever else. So I wasn't very happy with that response. So I did some more investigation myself as to what goes in and what were the stumbling blocks, and I realized they weren't really significant ones. So I started to negotiate with the owner of this company to buy his business. We were almost tying this deal up when he decided to walk away from it. I think we started to find that his business had a few more problems, and so the value that I wanted to deliver to him wasn't quite what he had expected. And
but no, this is the whole process. You still have to deliver these boats.
So I've got a deposit in the account. In fact, in his account at this time. And so
that's a big risk.
This was a turning point for me, or could have been, because he then went and put his company into liquidation. And so I sat with $1 million in this guy's liquidated company to perform on an order to the end user, was ultimately Shell. And I had the Shell representatives flying out to South Africa to see what was happening in a month or two's time. So long story short, I had a great, by this stage I've got a few really good people to help me with this project. And I managed to convince the Navy and Arms Corps to let us use the facility in the Simonstown Naval Base. Managed to convince the customer to put a little bit more money in directly with us, and started the build of this vessel. It took about 8 months to release, and it went to the High Court to release the funds that we had on deposit. which was a judge decision. It could have just gone either way as to whether we should have gone back, but you never know with these processes. And for me at that point, because it was so daunting and such an enormous project, I was treating it as a project and not as a business necessarily. Although it was a business, it was just about building this boat, hopefully making some money and moving on. But I did try and sell some more boats, and we managed to get another order, and so this machine started growing. And
so you actually you had a business with an order book without having to put up upfront costs for it, or
yeah. So I mean that was the whole Entrepreneur Magazine story, is that it's a $600 million business with a $1 million business and with no startup capital. So we used the customer's money to fund the business. And
how did you? If I did go to somebody that shot, hey guys, I want to build a boat for you, then I'd go like, was it because of your experience with manufacturing other things, or why did they believe in you to actually do that?
Because I'm convincing. No, I think you've got to, if you believe in something, you've got to go and give it a go. I think that I still say today, I mean, we launched 2 vessels now last week, and I had all the clients and everyone was there, and I said, we need to be doing more of this here. Why must we have these built elsewhere? I mean, there's no reason. We have the facilities, we have the skills, we have the people. We just need to have the confidence and bring everyone together, and that's what business is all about.
And okay, so you got this first orders coming along. You obviously learned a lot on the way with building these boats. What is the most difficult decisions that you had to make in that startup stage of business?
I think you go through a period of strong cash flow management. I think you're constantly trying to please everybody. I think that you need buy-in from your suppliers, buy-in from your customer. In those early days, I think the biggest challenge was managing cash flow, and well, it's still important, but it's less of a crisis, let's put it, on a monthly basis.
The Paramount Group, they've recently, did they acquire the whole thing or section of your Nautic?
No, 2 years ago I sold 51% to them, and they are the largest private defence company in the world. And the idea was that they would deliver the naval side relationship network to the business.
Okay, so was that just to be able to give you to more access to markets, or?
So we're very strong in the commercial side, which is oil and gas and transport and ports and that side of the business. So we were looking to get stronger into the supply of naval patrol boats and small reconnaissance craft, interceptors.
Those kind of things. And do they have extra experience to be able to build those boats, or would you be able to do it anyway on your own?
No, we've got the capability. We've certainly got. We've done it already. We've delivered patrol boats to the Nigerian Navy. We've got some very big projects in the wings with other navies, and what we lacked is the ability to go in at governmental level and network with these decisions aren't made by the Navy necessarily. They put a request through, but there's a lot of networking and lobbying that needs to go on at a very high level, and we didn't have that network to be able to do it.
Okay, and how have you, the last 2 years ago, so how's it been going, the relationship? Honestly, this is a safe space. It'll be online in 2 weeks' time, but it's a safe space.
No, I've got a lot of respect for Paramount. I think as a company, they've done an enormous amount for this country. They're a huge employer. We've had our differences in terms of positioning and branding. We're very proud of our brand Nautic, and we're very strong. So we deliver most of the revenue, more than 90% of the revenue at this point. So we're quite protective of that brand, and our customers know us for that brand. So the merging into this deeper group, we've had to be quite careful about it. So it has been a slow, steady process of understanding and moving towards it to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to some questions. So please do ask some. There's a question popping up. This is great. Go on to slido.com, #startCRT. We will also have 1 or 2 remarks around some personal questions. But the first question here by Nicholas. James, what floats your boat today when it comes to innovation?
I had a meeting today with the gentleman sitting here. Just the most incredible idea. You know, it's actually a tech idea, funny enough, and it just reminds me of the sort of enthusiasm that I've experienced in pockets of my life. And this idea is just, I haven't come across anything like it, and it's just phenomenal. And so that floats my boat, but a lot of new ideas. You know, I'm passionate about helping people who have new ideas. As long as they don't, a lot of people come to me and think I've got a magic formula to make something work. You know, here's a great idea, can you make it work? And it's not about me, it's about you, in fact. It's about who's come up with this idea. No one's going to make your idea work except you. You're the one that's got to have the drive and the passion. I can sort of help join dots and shorten the timeline and other areas, but yeah, so that's what's...
How many SnakeBoards have you sold?
I don't know, actually. It's probably around 500,000. It's difficult to keep count. Obviously, you get very cheap ones, and then there were the very expensive ones. When I was very involved in the business, we were positioning this as a sport. So there were big margins, and there were expensive boards. When I left, they were going more and more into the low end, and then they licensed quite a lot of other companies. So more or less 500,000 at the higher level.
Does anyone have a question? Yes? No? Okay. There we go.
James, if I may ask, the valuing of your companies, if you can give one or two ideas, you mentioned...
So you want to just repeat that?
James, thanks for the info. Just the valuing of your companies, especially of your boat company, it's interesting that you put a value on it. How do you go about it as an entrepreneur? And maybe if you can give us an equation of how you actually value the current company.
So I guess you try and value it as much as you can. And but it's interesting because we've been buying companies recently, and it's you look at it from the other side as well. So I think in every case, you know, if you go and do an MBA, they'll give you a formula of how you value a company. At the end of the day, a company is worth what you're prepared to sell it for. But intrinsically, what you look for in a company is what assets it's got. And not necessarily, we're looking at a company now which says it's got 23 million rands of the molds, but half those molds you can't really use. So you write that off straight away. So you're looking at the assets, the goodwill value, and you're looking at, use that as your base, and then use what they're projecting going forward in terms of their ability to make sales, in confirmed sales, and then projected blue sky sales. But at the end of the day, it is a very subjective subject, and as I say, it's what you prepare to sell it for, what someone else is prepared to buy it for. Somebody said to me the other day that if we can agree on a price that we're both unhappy with, then it's probably the right price. So that's pretty much where it is. The interesting, though, further thought to that is, when do you sell the business? Because you know, when are you going to get the optimal value in your business? I think that's a more interesting topic, which would depend on your business, but is quite interesting in the mix of things.
Another question? Anyone? Here we go. What's...
Were you ever afraid?
So I'm afraid, I'm petrified every day. I think that I think you have different levels of concern and anxiety, and you know, I think that if you're not concerned and you're not afraid, then you're not behaving as a true entrepreneur and business owner. I think you need to be looking behind you every step of the way. I think if you ever feel that you're coasting, something's wrong. You need to, you know, a business is like a plant. It's going to grow, and you don't know which direction it's going to grow. You know, a branch is going to suddenly come out the right and up and this way, and your job is to prune and move it in the right place in the sun every single day. So it's a constant job, and that's what I said earlier. Is actually what's quite nice about the matrix and the puzzle of a business as well.
Okay, next coming up with some cool questions here. What's the biggest sinking feeling you've had since going into boat?
No, I like the pun there. So
Nick is a clever. He's a very
I know exactly what it is. You know, it's the first boat we launched, and here you've got R100 million asset that is about to go into the water. It's been sitting in your shed for a year, and it's about to go into the water. And I stood there at the quayside, and I just said to one of the guys, Greg or whoever it was, I said, I hope this thing floats. So, you know, you get back to like, what is your biggest anxiety? What's the worst thing that can happen at any one time? And I think you talk about anxieties, it's actually, it is that. It's about prioritizing what's always the worst thing that can happen at any one time. And at that point it was, you know, making sure this thing floated.
Are you open to investing in startups now? And if so, which industries are you open to? With the limited time that you have.
Yeah, look, I definitely am. I definitely am. I get
Somebody's got money, guys.
No, I mean, it's not about the money. I mean, it can be about the money, but I think there's lots of money around. It's about positioning it and channeling the idea in the right way. But also, I think one's got to be really honest with oneself with a new business, and you know, where you've got to look at the hard realities. And if I look at ideas and new products and things like that, I'm going to be quite brutal about it. But when I get excited, I get really excited. It's all fake would have run out today.
Is there any more questions, guys? Okay, what is that? What's the last question? Yeah? Cool.
Thank you so much for the inspiring information or knowledge that you managed to share with us. So I've come to understand that networks are extremely critical in terms of taking you to the next level. I mean, you had a SnakeBoard, you were young, but you ended up meeting the right people that could actually propel or push your first business. Even now being in the boating industry, I'm sure it's because of some of the great networks that you actually had created over time. So my question is, how do you actually end up sitting with the right people for your business? Obviously, being a startup, it's quite challenging to meet people or like-minded people, or even if it's not people with the kind of, even if it's for a business where you actually don't have skills, but you're passionate about the idea, how do you actually end up finding the right people to support your dream or your passion?
So you're absolutely right in that people are one of the key, if not the most important ingredient in getting a product or an idea or a business off the ground. There are 3 or 4 other things, but people is absolutely the key. And I don't think I can give you a formula. I think that if you exhibit some of the other attributes which one needs, which I would describe as, you know, you need to build a proper business. So you need to get all your building blocks in place, the foundations, plan. Don't mess around. You know, if you're going to do something, do it properly. The other thing is make sure you have got the passion. If you project the passion and you've done it properly, I believe that attracts the people. The people will come. I don't think you should go looking for people before you've sorted out the business within yourself. You are ultimately the person who's going to be mostly responsible, probably, in driving the thing and making sure it works. And so I think you need to take care of yourself first. Make sure you've developed a proper business. And I'm talking about stupid things like VAT registrations, companies, UIF, you mentioned all these things earlier. Get a proper accountant who's going to manage it. If you've not got a proper accountant, you're not going to be starting a proper business. And so the building blocks, the foundations are truly, truly important. The passion that you must obviously have for that. And the other thing is integrity and honesty. You have to be honest with yourself that you have a good product. There's no point in you being the only believer in your product, and you're not listening to people coming to you and saying, oh, actually, there's a good idea, or try to do something. I mean, you're always going to have people like that, but take on advice and do Google research. I mean, nowadays you can find anything else. Once you've gone through those steps, I think that people will then come to you. And the right people will come to you. Obviously, networks can help, but you also want people to join you for the right reasons. They must come because they want to come, not because you're trying to convince them to join you. That's been my experience today.
Do you think you should set up your PTY and business and everything before you have your first customer? Or should you start prove your idea, get the business going, and then start worrying about those things?
I think it's contextual of what it is exactly. This discussion today. I think when you are ready to trade, you must trade officially and properly with everything set up, and show the commitment to it. But obviously, proof of concept and testing the market and that sort of thing. I think it's important, and you don't need to do that in front of or until you've set up everything.
Okay, last question, because I think it's quite a cool one. Honestly, if you're parting life with business knowledge to your child, what advice would you give at the start? What's your one piece of information, inspiration that you give?
Probably what I've just said. It would be passion and honesty. I think don't kid yourself. It's tough out there. No one else is there to support you as much as yourself. If you believe in something, go for it. I grew up in an environment where I had my family against me. Everyone seemed to be against me. But it was my passion. It was just, I had this completely unwavering commitment to do this. And I think that, if the people I admire in life, like Steve Jobs, with that completely uncompromising just direction on what he wants, if you've got that, then you've got my support, and I think that is the most important thing to have going forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We're now going to the Twitter competition. There's also a business card bowl. Can the bowl please be available? What?
It's on mute. It's on mute. Just press the mute button.
Thanks so much for your amazing inspiration and insights tonight. It was really fantastic to listen to your story, very inspiring, and I think we all took something from what James was saying, and we all took something which we can go and apply in the next couple of weeks in our own businesses, down to what we're really here for tonight. So the first runner-up prize, and if you don't follow him yet, go do yourself a favor, @NickVK2. Tonight, definitely the most entertaining tweeter with things like from 0 to hero, or never let a fax machine know you're in a rush. They can smell fear. And patience is a virtue. Nick, you definitely deserve this runner-up prize.
You get power bank. There we go. And you also get Daddy's deal.
I was serious. He really needs more Twitter followers. Please go follow him. Okay, our second runner-up tonight, his tweet reads, "From snakeboards to building ships, never think that your dreams are too wild or won't work if you don't even start." Jonathan Mayer, I'm giving his prize on one condition. Please use autocorrect and spell check. Won't work. Jonathan, where are you?
There we go. There we go. And also the. There we go.
Alright.
Excellent.
Well done on that first attempt. Okay, and then the winner tonight of the weekend away in Knysna at the Island Resort, yes? It's the Manzi Island Resort. I think we can all agree, watching her tweets tonight, she was definitely well deserving of this prize. Fiona, where are you? Woo! One of the best tweets from her tonight read, knocking on doors and jumping on the board raise the money. It boils down to passion and a little bit of crazy.
A little bit of crazy. Thank you for that. Congratulations. Well done. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone who tweeted tonight. We're trending number 3 in South Africa. We even beat hashtag pay back the money.
Okay, so while the business card being pushed around there, this is Jaws the fish, or it was known as redfish. Okay, now if you go to www.redfish.co.za, if you are looking for any serviceman, like a plumber, electrician, or anything, yes, interior painter, they want anything interior painting, go to redfish.co.za. You can get verified and also rated servicemen to come to your house to fix these problems. Because instead of going to your friends and saying, hey, does anybody have somebody that can fix my plumbing? Go to redfish.co.za. But the story behind this was that LLA launched this with Jaws the Fish. And we've had a lot of fun. If you watch hashtag Jaws the Fish, you'll see that this fish has traveled all over the place. We've had a lot of fun with you. Check out the Twitter stream as well. And this is thank you very much. What you also get is you get a, right, this is the fruit cube. Beautiful box, look at that. You can order this online and then deliver it to your office every week. So you'll be getting this one and then there'll be another follow-up one in a week's time. Thank you. Once again, we've still got the business card. Okay, everybody done? Cool. We've got 2 left here, so 2 cards. Okay, while we're doing this, after this event, you must please go to Extra Blatt. Extra Blatt, right? It's across the road. The first people that walk up there is how many drinks? 1,000 rands worth of free drinks from Tech for Africa. So if you get this super early, you can get some.
Where?
Extra Blatt.
Go now. Go now. What's the camera on this one?
Oh, that's one. Lucia, I think it is. Yes. Lucia, you get 200 rand for gift voucher from these kids. Woo! Right. Shalton Remix. Shalton, there we go. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, everybody that has won a prize tonight, thank you. Everybody's won a prize. Jackie, please stand up. Jackie? Okay, please go to her. There's some follow-up stuff, there's some more prize than that. If you don't see her, we won't be able to give you the other stuff. Okay, please get hold of her. James? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You'll get it now. Extra Blatt Party Town. Music. Let's go. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, something. Who's got the James, go. Okay, guys. Alright.
Stop moving it.
James.
Stop moving it.
So James had the honour of blowing out our 2 years birthday cake.